There was a tragic shooting in France yesterday, and unfortunately that shooting is now being exploited by our president, Donald Trump, for political purposes. But to give you the updates on what occurred and what's currently happening, police and soldiers are still looking for the perpetrator. He's a suspected extremist who sprayed gunfire near one of Europe's most famous Christmas markets, killing 3 and wounding at least 13 in the eastern city of Strasbourg. Now, 8 of those injured are said to be in critical condition. Also, police union officials identified the suspect as Sharif Chakat, a 29-year-old with a thick police record for crimes including armed robbery. So he has a record in several countries. In fact, the suspect had 27 criminal convictions in France, Germany, and Switzerland. And it is said that he was radicalized while he was behind bars. He is a French-born citizen, so this is not someone who immigrated to France. But with that said, he did commit crimes in various European countries. He was convicted of robbery in Germany in 2016 and sentenced to 2 years and 3 months in prison for breaking into a dental practice and a pharmacy in 2 German towns. The man had also been radicalized in prison and had been monitored by French intelligence services since his release from jail in late 2015 because of his suspected religious extremism. Reports also indicate that police were looking to arrest him on the morning of this shooting and were unable to do so. And he unfortunately carried out this act of violence later.
Yes, and so couple of things here. I want to be clear. He was born in France, as Anna said, but his parents, if you go all the way back, are, in fact, I don't even know if it's his parents, but his family, if you go all the way back, has Moroccan roots. And so, look, if you're unfamiliar with the ethnic background of folks in France, there's, yes, a lot of folks that were born in France whose family originally came from other places, including North Africa. For example, one of the most famous French people alive, Zinedine Zidane, arguably the best football player in the world for quite some time. And so when it's Zinedine Zidane, of course, everybody is proud, right? And in a situation like this, people are of course horrified, but to generalize on only this news obviously would be preposterous, which is why, of course, not only all of the right wing, but our president is doing that as well.
Right, so let's get to that. In response to this shooting, Donald Trump decided to exploit it as a way to push for the $5 billion he demands to fund his border wall. He says another very bad terror attack in France. Let's just stop right there. The French police are being very careful in how they are characterizing this attack. They say potential terror attack. They still don't know what the motive is. Now, of course, people are gonna speculate that it's a terror attack. Obviously, Trump is doing that here. But again, I mean, as the president of the United States, you should be a leader and just hold for a second until it's confirmed as a terror attack. I mean, it's different to be a commentator or someone who does news analysis. It's another thing to be a leader of a country like the United States. But anyway, of course, he's gonna call it a terror attack right off the bat because it's gonna serve his purposes. He also says we're going to strengthen our borders even more. Chuck and Nancy must give us the votes to get additional border security. But this attack was not a result of an immigrant coming into France and carrying out an act of violence. He was born in France. This has nothing to do with immigration. Now, it has a lot to do with how people get radicalized. Clearly, he was radicalized while he was behind bars, which completely defeats the purpose of putting people in prison. But that's not something that's convenient for Trump. It's not gonna help him with his political narrative, so he's gonna go ahead and make this about immigration.
Yeah, look, if you try to find rational reasons for the shooting so that you could prevent further shootings, that's a super legitimate conversation. So there are a couple of different avenues there. This guy was arrested 26 different times before this, and having nothing to do with terrorism, armed robbery. There's robberies in Switzerland, Germany, France. He's a lifelong criminal. Now, when right-wing terror attacks happen in the United States, every time, not only the right wing, but the media jump in and go, lone wolf, just a crazy guy, right? Now, I got news for you. People go and shoot people in markets are all crazy guys. So this guy was a bad guy for a long time. That's a common criminal in France, and now he apparently got became more extreme in prison and then did this. So if you want to look at his criminal track record and what led to that, that's a fair question. By the way, you can go liberal or conservative. Hey, did he get radicalized in prison and hence they didn't do a good enough job of rehabilitation in France as they do in Norway? That's an interesting question. But also an interesting question if you're a conservative is, hey, he served about 4 years in prison. 26 robberies and he only served 4 years in prison. It's a legitimate question because you're actually talking about the root causes of what happened here. He used a gun. So, what are the laws in France related to how easy or difficult it is to get guns? You can make legitimate arguments on both sides, I guess. I think that, of course, in America, it's super easy to get a gun. It's probably much harder in France. So that's an interesting conversation. And finally, the religious extremism is also an interesting conversation, saying, hey, how can we prevent radicalization? And so I would join you in that conversation and in that effort because no one wants radical religious extremists in any direction, right? But if you just take the one element that Trump's talking about, his ancestors at some point were immigrants. By the way, so was yours. Your mom was an immigrant, Donald Trump, right? So, and then go, aha, that's it. I found it. He's the other. Well, that means you're not trying to solve the root cause of the problem. As usual, you're using it for demagoguery to drive hate, which is ironically what the terrorists wanted to do.
And Trump also likes to take world events and purposely misinterpret them or twist them to basically puff up his own ego. And I'll give you another example of that from this week. So the yellow vest demonstrations in France. Now that was a protest not just about the fuel tax, although the fuel tax was the straw that broke the camel's back. It was about economic inequality and injustice. Now you have Emmanuel Macron repealing the wealth tax and then implementing regressive taxation that disproportionately negatively impacts the middle class and the working class. So that's really the heart of that protest. And Donald Trump instead comes out and makes it about him and says, no, the people of France want me. So in response to the yellow vest protest, Trump tweeted falsely claiming that thousands of citizens had taken to the streets to say no to the Paris Climate Agreement of 2015 and in doing so, to honor Trump.
Yeah, that's why they riots in France. They're like, we are not honoring Donald Trump enough. Who could possibly believe that?
Trump believes it, it's insane.
Yeah.
He even tweeted that they were chanting, we want Trump, and that he loves France.
By the way, think about that. So so those riots are interesting and disconcerting in a lot of ways. And of course, the real reason for it is people rebelling against neoliberal principles of trickle-down economics and the wealth inequality. And the French rush to the barricades a little quicker than we do, which has a significant upside and obviously has downsides. But you should be concerned because there's things that are being burned and there's rocks being thrown and it's just
there was looting.
Looting. It's a deeply concerning situation. Donald Trump looks at that and doesn't say, "Oh, that's rioting. That's bad. Oh, there's concerns about security." He looks at it and goes, "They honor Trump. Me like riots. Me like riots when they say Trump. It's me." Who even takes credit for that? I mean, what a crazy thing to take credit for. That's the maniac we have in office. So us even trying to ascertain why he tweets about a terror attack or a potential terror attack in France is preposterous. He's irrelevant. He's a buffoon of the highest order. So lastly, on again root causes and how bad things are in this country, France sent 350 officers to try to track down the shooter. And it gotten international attention because my God, original reports were that 3 were dead and 13 were killed. Now some are saying that 2 are dead and 1 is in a vegetative state. But let's say 3 dead, okay? So that's a huge international story. Do you know how many times we've had a shooting in America this year with at least 3 killed? 46 times.
Wow.
Just this year, okay? So for us, that's just Tuesday, because in Europe, where they have much tighter gun control, It's a shocking news story, a massacre of that magnitude. Here in America, we're like, oh yeah, it's another massacre. No big deal, let's just move on. That's number 46 and tomorrow will be number 47 and on we go. And then we talk about terrorism.
That's such a great point, yeah.
We terrorize ourselves with this insane gun laws that allows for endless massacres. So France, we feel your pain. I hope you feel our pain. We have got to get our corrupt politicians out. We should be not rioting, but protesting a lot more in this country because it's not just the wealth inequality. These kind of things aided and abetted by corruption are literally killing us here in America. On the go? Don't worry, we got you covered. You can still listen to TYT at our new podcast network. Find us on Apple Podcasts, the Google Play Store, or at tyt.com/podcast.